Ladies and gentlemen, no footage to start this video because the show went off really fucking quick off the air. So SummerSlam 2020 just went off the air live from the Thunderdome. You'll never see it coming. You'll never see the return of Roman Reigns coming because he's the big dog and he's gotta look strong, and he did tonight. But before we get to that, let's get through tonight's card. Starting off first with the SmackDown Women's title match. Asuka had two title matches tonight. Her first one was against the role model Bayley. And Bayley retained her SmackDown Women's title, continuing her reign that is 2 months away from being an entire year. Interesting fact. The match was good. Asuka and Bayley always had decent matches. This was Bayley's first win over Asuka. Of all the times they faced off, from NXT to the main roster, Bayley, this was her first win. Of course, it happened as I predicted. Sasha would somewhat distract or get involved in Bayley's match. That would help Bayley win. I thought they would have the matches back to back. Turns out Sasha's was later on in the night. And Bayley retained, which I thought was the right call. I thought Bayley should retain for Sasha to lose because, of course, the end game is Bayley versus Sasha Banks. So, of course, they needed Bayley to retain. Following that, we had the Raw Tag Team title match as the Street Profits defended against Andrande and Angel Garza. Again, they're teasing dissension between Andrande and Garza. As towards the ending of the match, Zelina was knocked off the apron by Montez accidentally. That caused Andrande to check in on her, which left Angel alone to eat the finish. Good match. Nothing really special. The finish, though, that splash Montez did, like he jumped and turned while hitting the splash. That was actually really, really cool by Montez, so props to him. And don't know what's going to be next for them, to be quite honest. Raw tag teams, there's not many left that they haven't faced yet, so maybe that Hurt Business stuff will be a tag team. Speaking of Hurt Business, Apollo Crews MVP, I only caught the finish. Apollo Crews retained, sort of predictable. That new U.S. title, I'm iffy on. I'm still not used to it because, I've known this one for so long that this new one's sort of weird for me to get used to, but I will at some point. Following that, we had Mandy versus Sonia. Honestly, my least favorite match of the night. It just felt like it was a no DQ match, and it felt like it never needed a no DQ stipulation, but they had it. The only no rules thing they did was set up a table, which they never used, and used a chair. And Mandy tossed two chairs. In the end, the predictable finish coming off the events that occurred to Sonya Deville. Mandy Rose won. Sonya Deville is forced to leave WWE. This will write off Sonya Deville for her to sort of recover from what happened to her, sort of take time off from TV, from the spotlight, the attention, which is good for her. I understand it. I hope she gets better. And it sucks when this stuff happens because I'm still someone that wants to meet some of my favorites like Becky Lynch and Bayley. But then, seeing how some fans act is really, really, really very, very disturbing. So I hope Sonya Deville will be okay. Following that, I believe we had the Dominic versus Seth Rollins match, as Simon called it, the main event. It was a good match. It was nothing really bad. Again, it was a street fight, yet they only used kendo sticks and stuff. WWE tonight booked 3 matches with no rules, yet they didn't feel like anything special. They just felt like regular matches that just used weapons. This one used kendo sticks, a table, and handcuffs. Seth won, which I thought was going to happen. I figured Dominic was going to win. I was rooting for Seth, but Dominic didn't win, which sort of makes me feel this was really just a one-time deal, and I don't think Ray's getting re-signed to WWE. I think this is Ray being finished. I think Dominic got his match, and they're both going to leave. I think this was just WWE sort of trying to convince Ray to stay by having Dominic have that match, but in the end, I just figured that Dominic was not going to win. I don't know why. It was just a feeling I had. We followed that up with Sasha versus Asuka, the second time match for Asuka. The second time's the charm for Asuka. She becomes your new Raw Women's Champion. Bayley tried to get involved, but it sort of backfired. Sasha taps out, so two belts Banks is gone. Sasha can still not defend the singles title at a pay-per-view. That has to be some sort of impressive streak. And the dissension between Bayley and Sasha continues and will most likely keep going as we head towards Payback, which is actually next week. They're having two pay-per-views back-to-back for some fucking reason, which I don't know why. I'm intrigued to know why, but I really don't get it. We then followed that up by Drew versus Randy for the WWE title. That was another good match. Good psychology work. Orton was good. Drew was good. The finish was surprising. Drew wins with a backslide. I guess this sort of sets the rematch open for next week's Payback. I think maybe in a more stipulation sort of match where Randy could win and become champion, not have to pin Drew like cleanly or whatever. And yeah, that match was okay. I was really expecting Randy to win, because of like all the rumors that came out. Like Meltzer rumored saying Orton was gonna take the belt, hold it till WrestleMania to lose it to returning Edge. Maybe WWE sort of flipped the switch on it. They were like, "Fuck it, no, we're gonna do something else." So I really don't know what's the plan for that. Before the main event, they announced that Keith Lee was coming to Monday Night Raw. They said Raw has no limits. The limitless one, Keith Lee, is coming. Makes his loss last night, more understandable. And I'm excited to see where Keith Lee does. Then, your main event of the evening, the Falls Count Anywhere match for the Universal title as the monster, bald head Braun, took on The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And The Fiend is your new Universal Champion. Before we get to the return at the end of it, the match was okay. I didn't really enjoy it. The whole Falls Count Anywhere thing, the fall still happened inside the ring, and as far as they went was Gorilla. Like, they didn't even go back there, which was sort of disappointing. I know they could go backstage. They did on Friday when Braun and Bray were brawling, so I don't know why they didn't go into the backstage area. And yeah, it was just that. Bray won with like two Sister Abigails and a Uranagi on the exposed wood, which is always like a kryptonite for people. And Bray wins, and as Bray's about to celebrate, the big dog Roman Reigns comes back with his new shirt that says "Wreck everyone and leave." Sounds a little bit like "Erase hell and leave," but I guess he had to have his own twist on it. Good for Roman being back. It's always weird when you have this guy who's such a fixture of WWE not being on TV for so long, finally being back. Again, the question a lot of people are having, the question even Simon was asking me, is he heel or not? I don't think he is. I think, he attacked the heel Bray. He attacked a Braun that was heel for the last few weeks. Is he heel? To the people I was talking while watching the show, one of them sort of said that Roman could be the leader for Retribution. To me, it'd be interesting. It'd be sort of ironic. It'd be the irony would be funny, considering that Roman is the guy, and Retribution is about wanting to change how WWE works. So Vince's boy wants to change how Vince runs WWE. Sure. But yeah, good return for Roman. Sets aside the Universal title. We're going to get, I guess, our Bray versus Roman feud that we're supposed to get at WrestleMania. We're going to get it in the fall. It should be an interesting path to Payback and probably Clash of Champions if the network commercial is to be believed. So, SummerSlam 2020. It was a good show. WB again, they're trying to do their best during this. Definitely not the same enjoyment level for me as NXT or as last year's SummerSlam, but it was really hard. Like, there was a few stinkers for me on there. Matches I just didn't really get into or care for. But there were a few good matches, but there was nothing that really broke out or stood out. I'd say if anything stood out, the women's matches between Bayley, Sasha, and Asuka were really, really good. The rest was sort of eh. I feel like maybe not having NXT last night, if they had just done SummerSlam, I think for me, it would have put maybe a little bit more enjoyment in this show. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to leave me your thoughts down below. What did you think on SummerSlam tonight live from the Thunderdome. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to the Raphael Duke Page Guide channel. Thank you for watching, and make sure to tune back in. We're going to have payback coverage this week, next weekend. So tune right back in to the Raphael Duke channel.